Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported website about video games, the internet, and everything that comes after. Aftermath is, for the moment, fully reader-supported, so if you like what you hear, you can subscribe on the site. There is a big button for that sole purpose. Or if you don't have a ton of money right now, we'd really appreciate it if you could review the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. You can also now watch the show on YouTube. And, if you would like to thumbs up it or whatever, that'd be great. In any case, I am Nathan Grayson, and today I'm joined by Chris Person.
Hey, everyone, what's going on?
And Riley McLeod.
Hello.
And so just a quick programming note about this episode, because we are recording right now on a Wednesday, but there's going to be a major news event tomorrow, a Thursday. That's the Netflix preview of GTA. And so we're going to record another segment with Zack Zwiezen from Kotaku talking about it. And so that will also be on this episode. So we're not time traveling. We're just, doing things in little chunks. But for today, or for this part of it, we're going to talk about the other thing that happened this week, which is Gamescom Opening Night Live. That is the I would say third and also least important of the various Keighley fests that happen every year. So, it's just like Summer Game Fest, only it happens a couple months later and less is really, shown or talked about of any sort of magnitude. But, it was still, I think, in some ways interesting and revealing, if nothing else, of where the industry is at right now. For example, I think Stephen Totilo did a piece about it and pointed out that, it was kind of the Chinese games industry flexing its muscles. There's a lot of games from that part of the world. A lot of games that seem to be either Hoyoverse or like Krafton or whatever. A lot of gacha, or a lot of things that feel like they're going to be gacha games. So yeah, how did y'all feel coming away from all of that?
It definitely did feel very Chinese century adjacent. There's like Anata, I was trying to figure out what the fuck that game was, really.
Yeah.
It's the most I've ever been confused by what a game is supposed to be.
I kept thinking it was Persona, or that wanted to be like Persona, and then it would do something, and I was like, no, it doesn't.
People are calling it anime GTA, for those who are not familiar. And yeah, it had this trailer with like anime characters and cars and things of that nature. It was the first time that I'd heard of it. Was it the premiere? Was it the premiere of the game, or was it just like another trailer? I actually don't know.
It had been announced, I want to say maybe in January. I looked it up after because I also went, what is this? So I think people knew about it before. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it was I don't think.
But yeah, it features a blue tie wearing anime guy and focuses on his misadventures in a big city, doing a lot of like GTA style things, being on top of cars, and except for that, then you look at all the other characters and they're also kind of anime archetypes. You got like a bunny girl and shit like that. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it seemed fine, but it's not anything where I'm like, oh man, I gotta play this. It's just like, yeah, it's like if you took Genshin Impact and slammed it into GTA, made the two of them have a car wreck.
It was funny for Hoyoverse to be like, here's Elden Ring.
Yeah, that was wacky to me because I saw people like sharing screenshots of comparisons afterwards, and like it is kind of blatant in some cases where it's just like, yeah, we took this design from Elden Ring and, made a few tweaks here and there, but it's the same character.
Yeah. It's very funny. Like, I don't know. I don't want to like begrudge, because there are some games that are like coming out of China that like do look interesting. But there was a lot of stuff that it felt like, damn, this does feel like an LLM made it. You know what I mean? Like a significant
Well, in some cases, that was just true.
Yeah.
I do either of you have access? Actually, it's in Slack if you want to grab that one thread.
I just looked at
it. Yeah, pull that
I was talking about
because it turns out either I blocked that person or they blocked me, so I can't look at that thread.
Okay.
But yeah, what was the number? There was like 14 games in the presentation that were AI assisted in some capacity.
So someone had made a thread on Blue Sky of games that had AI in them. It seems like they've deleted some of those since. I know it seems like they had said Anata did and then deleted that, it appears. So I am seeing 14 maybe games where the developers had said, but there's either an AI disclosure on the Steam page, the developers had said they used it in some way. Obviously, that doesn't mean that like every game they found is, full of things made with AI. It means a lot of different
but it was like
things.
Yeah, assisted in some way. What was the one that just like one of those games? The moment I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this just looks like it was created by AI." Like all the character models were insanely generic. Trying to scroll through Polygon's article right now to find it, but yeah, it's just like nothing about it appeared to have ever been touched by a human being. It was remarkable.
Is that Like or Die, maybe?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was Like or Die.
That was the kind of strange social media-y one. Yeah, that one's on here.
The generative AI tools were utilized for auxiliary purposes in production of some assets. These assets were modified and supplemented by blah, 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 blah. You know the one kind.
It just looks so like its art style is just nothing.
I feel like a lot of the games, looked the same to me.
Zoopunk was the one that really was like really weird, but we've seen that one before. You know what I mean? And
Zoopunk, for those who don't know, is like an animal-centric action game. It looks kind of character action-y, but I'm not sure if it is. But yeah, it has like a character who looks like Peppy Hare, only hyper-realistic, and a big rhino guy. But also, I think, it has an AI disclosure, right?
Yeah, I believe
Zoopunk
so.
was like used.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kotaku ran a piece saying that like it was used to demonstrate AI assets or like AI capabilities. Yeah, wait, let's see. What was the headline? Yeah, Zoopunk was used to demonstrate generative AI assets. So that's a shame.
Did they mention Crimson Desert during that? Because like
there was like an ad for it.
Well, if it was
a trailer,
if it was a trailer slash ad, it's really weird.
Trailer.
I mean, that one should get more heat. Even for myself, I should be more present with the fact that they probably. But like the thing about it that is weird is that they did drop like a 35 gigabyte patch for like the special edition on the game, and I only noticed that because I was like updating like 20 games. I'm like, oh, why is this 138 gigs now? Why is this like Call of Duty size now?
Yeah, well, I know that like because they advertised that they like included new story scenes and stuff like that, and I know that a lot of people have had issues with the incoherence of that game's narrative.
Yeah.
So
it's not good. I'm going to say that, but like it is, I don't know. I'm fascinated with it because like there's a degree to which like it is obviously like, move fast and break things, and more often it's break things than anything else. But it is like the kind of shit that they were doing even before then. You know what I mean? In terms of like wackadoo MMO, we have like the infinite money faucet shit. It's really a fascinating. Yeah. I find that game fascinating, even if it's like fraught, Yeah,
I mean, it's also huge. It sold a lot of copies.
Yeah.
And like, because of, it's also interesting in that it demonstrates how you can win over an audience to your game, even when your game is like at best mid in this day and age, which is that if you just update it a lot, if you just show like this good faith effort to improve it, people really appreciate that, because I think of like all the, and again, I think this is also erroneous, but like the lazy devs sentiment on like Steam and Twitter/X and YouTube and all those places. And so if you even like performatively make it seem like you are the opposite, that you were tireless devs, and, to the Crimson Desert's developers' credit, I think they have like pretty, like they've done a lot to the game.
They've done like more than like several games have done to that game. And you could say like how it gets there is not necessarily additive or good, but like, I am going to be more interested in the, okay, we're done retrospective of that game. Like it will be, I mean, it's already like kind of incomprehensibly big in terms of what it is. That doesn't mean it's better, but like, I'm wondering what it ends up being, like it will just not like, it'll be different. It'll be a different game.
Yeah. When actually you can draw a line between that and another game that got an update, or rather they announced an update for it during the show, which is The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
The Witcher 3, and, CD Projekt has a long history of doing this, of releasing these big games that are varying degrees of flawed. The Witcher 3, I think, was probably their best out the gate, because, Witcher 1 was kind of a mess out the gate. Witcher 2 was really good, but also pretty messy out the gate. Witcher 3 launched in decent shape, and they just improved it and improved it and improved it. And so there's a history there. And yeah, now with The Witcher 3, they've announced another free update where they are remastering the game. And I guess, again, overhauling its combat, which is interesting to me to do, 11 years after the game came out.
Yeah, I was surprised. I definitely had a moment as a big fan of The Witcher 3 when they were like Witcher 3 remaster. My first thought was like, oh no, like we don't need this. I'm not going to buy another copy of The Witcher 3. Like, give me a break.
Like, oh yeah, and it's free.
But, yeah, it's free, which I think is like really cool. I'm really annoyed about it because I think they'd announced like a few weeks or a month ago that the game will only work now on Windows 11, and I still haven't gotten Windows 11, and I'm like, is Windows 11 going to take The Witcher away from me, like my beloved Witcher? What do I do?
What do they need Windows 11? Does it work in
I was trying to
Proton?
I mean, I don't know if it's like it won't. They've only just tested it on Windows 11, and so play at your own risk. But I can't see how like you said, a 10-year-old game like, or 11 or however old it is, like, is going to suddenly only work on, I think they said you have to have an SSD too, which I understand at this point everybody does, but I bet it would still work, don't quote me on that.
I think it's plat. Proton DB says it's plat, so I guess, the original at least is deck verified. I'm curious what the new version would be, you know what I mean? Like,
someone needs to come help me install Windows 11 on my computer, which I think I can do, but I have to go screw with my BIOS or something to turn something on. And I just went, I don't want Windows 11. I'm never doing that. So I'm a little bit pissed off about this. I feel like it's come to get me at long last.
I mean, I think a lot of this is them doing a lot of work for the sequel, obviously. Like, it is kind of them not just re-upping, like, whatever, tweaking the engine and whatnot, but also just trying to see what works ahead of it, I guess. But we don't know what that game's going to look like eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although we might get some ideas from because they're also releasing another expansion. Again, kind of unprecedented for a game that's been around, at least a big AAA game that's been around for so long. Songs of the Past, which they showed a trailer for yesterday. Geralt uses kind of a cool Scorpion Mortal Kombat style chain weapon to yank an enemy to him. We get some glimpses of various characters and things like that. Mostly, like, what I find interesting about just this expansion in general, well, I find a couple things interesting. One is that it's like the apotheosis of kind of, using or like returning to an old game, reusing assets, whatever you want to say, to make new content. Something that I think is very cost effective in this day and age of ballooning budgets. And so, like, while, again, a lot of people online would be like, oh, they're being so lazy, blah, 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 which is, again, really stupid. This still takes a ton of work to make. I think, like, it's a really smart way for developers to potentially make some more money and keep themselves afloat while also building bigger and better things. But the other thing to me, though, is that, like, if ever a game kind of ended on a perfect note, like The Witcher 3 pulled it off. Like the final expansion was incredible. It was a great send-off. It had so much to do. It had this like kind of, lighter and brighter tone than the rest of the game to signify that. And so to then bolt kind of what I assume would be another ending or a like even cliffhanger to be continued onto it, that feels like it could go wrong, or at least it could undercut what was already like almost perfect.
Yeah. I do think what we're going to end up doing, well, maybe they do need connective tissue to make the sequel. Maybe that's like a part of it, which is an interesting way to do it. I think for me, like, it's good to remember that the game's like over a decade old at this point, and that like there's just people who have never had a reason to play it or to keep it front of mind. And so this thing where you give a free remaster to people who already own it, it gives them a reason to download the DLC, but it also like I feel like we're feeling this a lot with Gears of War, where it's like, why the fuck do I care about Gears of War? And like, because it's been a while. And, I think that like something I've been thinking about, particularly with From, is like, if you look at the cadence of their releases, like part of the reason they're front of mind with so many people is that like, they just put games out really frequently. Like they have a good A team and a good B team. They keep things totally consistent, even if they're not the same universe. Like, even if you're not giving them a Dark Souls, you're kind of giving them a Dark Souls. Like, an Armored Core 6 is kind of giving you something to keep them front of mind, and kind of gives you something to, like, they have a good cadence when so many other people don't. And part of that, again, is reusing assets. They're, like, the fucking goats at reusing assets. But, like, I think that there is this need to keep things alive mentally, to keep things fresh that I believe people,
especially in this day and age.
Yeah, like things keep ballooning out. Like GTA doesn't need that because GTA is one, GTA, and two, it has GTA Online, which is gargantuan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so like this, I actually was thinking about this because Control is like $4 right now, which is like crazy good deal. But also that's a great thing to do if you're going to release a sequel soon.
Well, The Witcher also made. I think the guy announced last night that the expansions right now are also free.
Yes,
I think
they
if you
are
own
free.
the game. Yeah, so that's like also, I guess, another way to. But probably must be like, I guess because I played it after all the expansions were out, so I of course just have them. But I think that's also probably another way to get people, thinking about The Witcher, which I always am. So I don't know I don't know what everyone else is doing.
I mean, I think it's also just part of CD Projekt's like brand in general. They've always tried to present themselves as very generous. Like again, expanding games for free, patching them for a long time after release, even before that became kind of the expectation in the video game industry. You have to keep in mind that like The Witcher 2 came out long before like live service was even a term, and they updated that game repeatedly, and they released like an enhanced or definitive edition that was free, like all of that stuff. They've always been like, this is the way that they've approached game development. And, they can do that because they've made bank over the years. Like the head of the company is a billionaire. So they got the funds, but I think that, at the very least, that's how they use them, as opposed to, all right, now we lay everyone off. And then, we try to make another game with a team that's been cut to the bone, all that stuff. Now, we'll see, how things pan out with The Witcher 4 and like this expansion and all that. Like, the games industry is very different than it was even when The Witcher 3 came out. And so it wouldn't shock me if CD Projekt has to bend to that to some degree. But, they are, I think, an anomalous company in many regards.
Yeah, they kind of have their own, and I mean, like even how GOG was for a minute, they're dependent of GOG status now, like kind of this idea of, I don't know, closer to Valve. It's weird to compare like CD Projekt to Valve, except in certain ways, but it does have a similar tone of like PC gaming as a thing that is like, you own this, more concretely, like giving the player reason to feel goodwill when it's like, fuck you, pay me with every other company. Like, even though they are still making money hand over fist, like that is, I don't know, they do feel unique in that regard.
Well, and also like, talking to them, and admittedly this was about Cyberpunk, but at GDC last year, I interviewed a couple of their people who were kind of in the process of spinning up the Boston studio that's going to work on, or that I think is doing pre-production on the next Cyberpunk. And we're talking about, the Phantom Liberty expansion and what they learned from making that. And like, they are very like creator and writer focused in that studio. And they're talking about how like their approach to making games more quickly was to be like, okay, we're going to have these kind of like miniature teams within each team where it's like, okay, your job is this particular quest, and taking it from, ideation to basically completion and polish and everything. And we wanted to empower those individual teams and create fewer bottlenecks. So it's like they have their own leader, they do their thing, they're like mostly autonomous, and they check in with people every once in a while. But it's like a lot of trust in people to create something cool, which I think is neat, especially again in this time of AI. And, maybe it'll come to light that they're using AI too. It wouldn't shock me. That's almost like every AAA publisher and studio now, it seems. Again, going back to that being a theme from Gamescom last night.
I will say, it's. I think I was watching, in particular, that thread about like, which Chinese company in particular has said no to AI. And it is funny because like Phantom Blade Zero explicitly said no to AI, and Black Myth, Zhang Kui, I always forget that, K-U-I.
Yeah, the sequel to Wukong.
Yeah, they're very, and that makes sense. Like for as controversial as that game is, for like the sort of bad behavior of its studio, it's very much like, oh, you fucking really put everything into this.
Yeah, the artistry of it is
really,
apparent.
they really gave a shit about that, even if they are like, their behavior is less than stellar. Do you know what I mean? And so it's really interesting to me that they see the wind blowing on that, because it feels like, especially in East Asia, like that that is not
Yeah,
as
there's greater acceptance of AI over there is the impression I've gotten.
Yeah.
Like I think Daniel Ahmad, who's a video game industry analyst, talks about this a lot, where he's like, yeah, the social norms around AI and the broader acceptance of it is much greater in portions of Asia than it is in the West, especially when it comes to like, artistic endeavors.
Daniel was who in that thread pointed those out. So I want to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, but that part is very interesting. Because there's such a schism in that regard. I think that if you look at gaming audiences here, like developers from Asia who are debuting their games at events like this are regularly shocked when there's audience backlash because they're not used to receiving that from, their own locality.
It's such a drag. I think Luke already read this blog, but like to just everything you see, you're like, oh, I wonder, like, I feel like now when I see a game guess because I was on Instagram and I found this like Irish language learning game, like some guy was making in a video with this kid, and I was like, oh man, that's really great. Like I'm gonna go look it up on Steam, and then I scrolled to the bottom, and it's like I used AI, and I'm like, man, like what? Like I get it, you're like one guy with a kid, but like what am I supposed to do here? And it's always like, ooh, with like everything these days,
I do think that Shift Up is getting dinged, is one of the few people or few companies to really run into this because like the follow-up to Stellar Blade is very slopped up. Like they had a slop music video. The actual like CEO of the company or the founder of the company, Kim Hyung Tae, who was a really good artist, like back in his prime, like just phenomenal artist. Very, very like for a very specific group of people, it's very horny art, but it was like a very good artist. And he's been all up in generative AI, particularly like training models on his own stuff, if I remember correctly. And I think that's the first time that we've seen a company like really get hit hard and publicly for that. Particularly because so many gamers in the West like globbed onto Stellar Blade as like a confusing culture war object. Do you know what I mean? And so like I'm fascinated to see at what point it bleeds into the rest of game development to be like, oh, this is a liability for like half of the market that we want to cover.
And then meanwhile, it's also going to be interesting to see, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, but as more and more games use AI, which I think is going to happen for at least a little bit, that's inevitable regardless of when the bubble bursts or which way the winds seem to be blowing. People are going to have to draw a line in the sand at some point if they really care about this issue. And they're going to have to start saying, okay, yeah, the next big installment in a series that I care about a lot, that I maybe grew up with, whatever else, I'm going to have to skip it. Or will their standards hold? Or will they be like, well, I'm going to make an exception for this one because, that's my favorite game series, or that's my favorite character. I want to know where the story goes or whatever. I think we talked about this in regard to like Divinity, because Divinity was kind of the wake-up call for a lot of people when that got shown last year. But in general, I think that's going to become a question more and more.
Yeah.
I mean, the new Crazy Taxi uses AI. It's fucking Crazy Taxi. They already made it without AI, but they decided this time that they need it for some reason. Like I think unfortunately that's just going to become kind of the status quo for a while. I mean, on the upside though, again, a thing to really keep in mind is that there are more games than ever.
Yeah.
There are so many games, and a lot of them are being made without AI. Case in point, something to plug is the games that don't use AI list on our very website, which I still need to update again after the initial round of games and studios that volunteer to be put in it. But that is already after I update it, which I'm hoping to do this week, it will be at over 100 studios. 100 is a lot of games. That's more than enough for probably a year for even like somebody who's a freak about playing video games. So you can always look elsewhere. You don't have to play big AAA games or AA games that are, leaning heavily on AI for efficiency or whatever the fuck. You got hella options. 20,000 games on Steam every year now. Come on, you'll be fine.
I'd like to plug 3 really quick ones. Blood Dungeon Rips, play Blood Dungeon. Cicada Mata, which is like neon white, but explicitly for lesbians that like Signalis. And then Volume, which I've talked about, I think, before, but also like wrote up the demo, and it's like I liken it to sort of like halfway between like Ico and the Gauntlet from Titanfall 2. Do you know what I mean? It's like a really tonally quiet and lonely kind of like brutalist world that doesn't give you a lot and is ultimately about like, you know, just running. And they're all three of them surprisingly are leaderboard based. So all three of those games have leaderboards that like you can compare all your friends' scores on a per level basis, which I think is a funny bit of synchronicity. They're all pretty cheap. They're all worth buying. Don't think they got AI. I mean, there's AI in Cicada Mata, like in the sense that it is about like people and computers, but like not in the labor generative or artistic sense.
Right. No, more just in the confusing branding sense.
I wonder if one of the questions that's been harder for me, I think even on our very website, is, you know, I think I'm sure that there are games you've played that have involved AI in some way that is not disclosed way down the pipeline and you'll never know. And like, is there like, you think there is a difference between games that are AI slop and games that used AI somewhere along the line? And I think this sort of like the ever increasing like vigilance and the ever increasing, I think, like you said, like rigorousness. And I can see, you know, I've definitely done my own mental gymnastics about like, well, maybe this is okay, or like maybe that's not so big a deal. And I think that it gets, as AI seeps into more and more things, it gets more and more murky, and it also asks you to be more and more rigorous. And I think that is like, it's exhausting, right? I think like I said before, every single thing, it's like, oh, what could it be? And like,
yeah, you have to be doing all this work all the time.
Yeah,
and like, you know, investigating. And then like, there's also and I see this everywhere that I go on the internet now, and it really bothers me, is that a lot of the time people will see something that just kind of sucks and be like, that's AI, clearly.
Right.
And it's like, no, actually it sucks in a totally different way. It sucks in like a way that often is very like human. It's just poorly done, or like it's bad writing or whatever else. And you see that attached to a game or something, and you're like, well, now I got to go investigate. Now I got to go make sure that I'm not walking into this situation where somebody has used AI and then said like, no, we didn't actually do that. And it's clear they did. Like, I mean, James Pond, for example, which Luke wrote about on the site, where it's like, I'm pretty sure that's AI because it seems to be bad in AI ways, but it could also maybe be bad in people ways. Like, I mean, it looks bad regardless. It does look pretty avoidable.
It does look very AI bad. Like it does look like
exactly.
But what is that?
They redrew. It does. Well, no, it does mean something because they redrew. Like there's the one that I thought of the most is like there's like a pixel art where like someone has a hand cannon. It's clearly meant to be a milk. You know,
because the character's a cow.
Because the character is a cow.
It's like a sci-fi
and that's like an important
thing.
part of the character design. And then it just gets turned into like a fucking generic Mega Man thing. And it's like that's what an LLM would do because it can't recognize that object and like redraw it. And then also it's missing a horn in a weird way that feels strange. You know what I mean? But like,
well, like people were like doing forensics on it and being like, also if you check like, it seems like the second picture was made after the third picture. If you look at like the shadows and like how they're like overdone on one and not the other.
But it's exhausting.
But like. Exactly. And it's also inconclusive in a lot of these cases because, again, it could just be a human fucking up too. You never quite know. And like, because of the potential for blowback, a lot of people are just not going to be honest.
I mean, I think the reality is like, I think a lot about counterfactuals, like, you know, and I've talked to people who are, you know, the God, or what is it? AI strongest soldiers, which is people who are developers who do just sort of like generic code that can be easily repeated over and over again, as opposed to even game design stuff or like game development stuff, where like that feels a little more like invasive because that's much more of a multimedia work of art. But like, I think about like, because like, you know, early on I was like kind of ambiguous about LLM usage because it was this thing where like, you know, I can see, you know, metadata analysis on a limited, you know, cross-section of things. That's fine. But like, because it became the thing that the most annoying people on earth won't shut up about and makes your life suck, like you can't make the moderate case anymore. Like that's the problem. The problem is that making the moderate case like requires a reality in which like you didn't have to spend like the last 2 fucking years being annoyed by these people and it making your computer expensive. Like that's the problem. And like I think the data center thing being now radioactive, like bipartisanly, like pretty uniquely, is going to really fuck up this industry. And then also like, I don't know, Chinese open weight models are going to probably destroy the data center build out a little bit, or at least fuck it up. So yeah, like there might have been a universe in which this was a little more nuanced and ambiguous, but like it's hard to make that case, and it's hard to do it in a world where like, I don't know.
Yeah, for a long time, my theory had been the hype will go away, and the niche limited use cases for which it literally is valuable, like data analysis or things that have nothing to do with me, like it will go do those things and everything will just be like normal, right? And it does seem like the more it goes on and the more they try to force it into the rest of our lives, the less likely that seems, and also the more harmful it becomes in a way that I think, like you say, like it makes it harder to think of that future. Like it feels much more like all or nothing to me now than maybe it did, a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are things for which it is legitimately useful, right? Like I don't want to be a stubborn jerk. I don't think those things are, booking plane tickets for me or pretending to be my insurance company, but like I'm sure there are some sciencey uses for this that are, quite helpful. Right?
Yeah, like all the B2B SaaS shit I kind of vaguely understand, but like the problem is like that's why every time they try to announce like a phone or like a Google project that does it, they're like, you can do so many things. You can book a vacation or ask it for a good idea for dinner or book a vacation. It's like the same 5 things that a normal person would want to do with an agent. Like look up tickets to a thing. And it's like, I can go on Movie Phone, man. It's fine. You don't have to like, this is.
Do you remember, I think Defector wrote about this, but there was a Super Bowl ad, I think, was it Salesforce? And it had Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. Do you remember this? I think, and Woody Harrelson, Matthew McConaughey books a table at a restaurant, and then it seats him outside and it's raining, and then the waiter serves him shrimp, but he doesn't like shrimp. And then Woody Harrelson is like, haha, should have used Salesforce agent. And it makes no sense because it's like the problem the ad is claiming to address is not a real problem. Like it's claiming to solve the problem of the waiter didn't let you sit inside when it was raining, which is not a real problem.
No, nobody
and
does
for
that.
some reason, the waiter brought you shrimp, which you didn't order, like, and it's like the saddest thing. And I think it came out right at the beginning of the like agentic for people thing. And it was like, this is the best you can do, like solving non-existent problems. What is this?
It's Bay Area brain. Like this thing happens. We were in San Francisco last year. And like, if anybody who's gone into San Francisco in like the last year or two, or even 10 for that matter, it's like, you'll just see these billboards that are like extremely expensive to book and meant for one singular person who makes purchasing decisions at a like a medium-sized company. You know what I mean? At like a medium-sized startup. And to you, it's just like, it might as well be in like Greek. You know what I mean? Like it's fucking weird, like Sumerian, just like things that no normal person should know, or phrased in a way that feels alien and unnerving. And like, that's every Salesforce ad.
Okay, to wrap up this segment, is there anything that y'all saw in the Gamescom Opening Night Live show, or just from Gamescom in general, that you think actually does look good or cool? Because I was just looking at, I was trying to remember the name of it, and I found it. Showa American Story.
Oh, yeah.
They showed it extremely briefly, and it's like this weird action game that takes place in in an alternate world where in the 80s a dominant Japan culturally colonized America.
Oh yeah.
And the trailer was like, it was giving like Onichibara vibes, if y'all remember that game from back in the day. But that mashed up with like some of the humor sensibilities of like Yakuza, and combat that looks like somewhere between like a character action game and Dynasty Warriors, like tons of enemies on screen at once. And there's this one bit where she's like fighting a crowd of people with an American flag or a US flag. And then she does like a special move that appears to rocket, like you slam the enemy on top of the flag, and then the enemy rockets into the air on the US flagpole, and everyone stands around and salutes as they ascend into outer space. It looks wacky and weird, and I'm intrigued by it. It could turn out to be, you know, like trash, but it could equally turn out to be like one of those all-time great 7 out of 10 video games. There's no way this is better than a 7 out of 10. No shot. But, you know, it could be like one of those special 7 out of 10s that feels like it belongs in, you know, the 2000s. So that one grabbed me. And then I was also intrigued, although like intrigued is maybe too strong a word. It at least was compelling to me. The new Dungeons and Dragons Warlock game. I was trashing it some in Slack, but I watched the trailer again, and like it does have a very interesting power set in terms of all the different little things that you can do, all the different ways that you can, like some physics-based abilities. It again feels like a game from the 2000s, like a game where, you know, like it's reminiscent of what they were trying to do back when like Half-Life 2 first came out. And everyone's like, oh yeah, physics-based abilities, all of these like various different little interesting powers. It seems like a really fun interpretation of like what a warlock could be. And also there's a lot of like the combat seemed very cinematic in ways that was interesting to me. At one point, like you go down and like you're using this little, like, I don't know what you'd call, like plate of various things, like, items for spellcasting and mixing them, then it goes back into the combat. And to me, that either is like a really cool bit of cinematic, like embellishment to a combat scene, or that could just be like, because some people are saying that the game almost appeared to be like a proof of concept trailer, less of like what the game will actually play like. But it seemed interesting to me as far as something like this goes. Like, you know, again, a major license in this day and age releasing what appears to be a single player action game instead of like a live service game or something like that. And really leaning into the idea of, here is what this character class can do. How do we turn that into something fun and action based while still, you know, paying tribute to that series and that world?
I feel like there were a couple trailers for live action games of the thing where I was like, oh goodness. Like, yeah.
You mean live service?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, live service. Sorry, yeah. Like, you know, give it a shot. There was a very wee trailer for a game, I had to look it up, called Loft Song, which was like a brutalist looking like puzzle game, and I was very intrigued by that. I was like, ooh. But I feel like everything else there just kind of looked the same to me, and it looked like things that I'm not personally, you know, very interested in.
Oh shit. I just remembered Pony Island 2.
Yeah, Pony Island 2 is on there.
That will probably be sick and also just completely insane. The first Pony Island was a genre-bending mind fuck, and the second one now has been in development for at least half a decade. And, you know, the original was like pretty lo-fi as far as these things go. The new one appears to have like full 3D spaces, and again, in addition to 2D stuff, like it's obviously going to genre switch a bunch. I'm certain. Yeah, and as a release date, April 27th, which is 10 days after my birthday. So,
well, I mean, for me personally, I think the thing that stood out was that Snoop Dogg's coming to Hitman: The World of Assassination.
Yeah, yeah. So we can get revenge on him for what he's doing with Stranger Paradise.
Whatever, man. The most I want to get in the mind of whoever books those fucking things, because it's the most like Gen X brain shit I've ever, like every single time.
I do wonder.
I do think I'm kind of interested in Rainbow Six Tactics.
Oh, yeah.
No, just from the perspective that, we're doing more tactic stuff now. Maybe this is just...
Yeah, especially given that we're getting Zero Company, like, you know, literally like a couple days after we record this. Yeah. And what will be interesting to me about that is, you know, will these games actually perform? Because generally speaking, like, you know, the revived XCOM series actually sold quite well, although and then that team kind of like scattered to the winds, and a lot of them are working on Star Wars Zero Company.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, in this day and age, will people buy that kind of a game? Will it sell the millions of units that these AAA publishers almost certainly desire? Or will it be like, oh, that was a failed experiment?
I think that like I think people are realizing, I think people got scared because of Midnight Suns, but ultimately, like, I think
Marvel's Midnight Suns.
I think there is like a real desire for this genre, and I hope so. You know what I mean? I hope there is like more people actively trying to pursue it, because it's like, I don't know. I think that we occasionally forget entire genres, like particularly when there's a big contraction in the industry, and like to see those again, to see those come back would be just like delightful to me. I don't know. I know it's like with Rainbow Six is kind of weird because like it's not a world I care as much about in terms of like what can you do in that, but it is also kind of in the DNA of Rainbow Six generally, even the original. You know what I mean? It was very much about placement and like, you know, you move here, except it was done in like a first person perspective. And so to do just a tactical game was like, that kind of does make sense. You know what I mean? That kind of super does make sense.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, I'm all for more tactics. I'm a huge XCOM head. So if we get even more of those, you know, more the better.
Yeah.
All right. It's me, Nathan from the future. And we are here today. Now it is Thursday. We were recording on Wednesday previously, and we'll return to that recording after this. We are here today to talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 and the Netflix premiere that just dropped, where they showed a bunch of new footage and other things. We are joined by Zack Zwiezen of Kotaku.com, who is, I feel like, kind of the only GTA beat reporter in games journalism. Do you feel like that's an accurate characterization?
If not the only one, probably the longest one. I've been doing it for now. I kind of realized that the very first thing I ever did for Kotaku was a decade ago about GTA 5. So I've been hitting the beat for a long time now.
Yeah, time flies.
It does.
But yeah, so I mean, what are your first impressions of the Netflix gameplay premiere?
I think like my very first initial impressions are just I knew this game was going to be big, but watching this kind of shocked me at how big this is going to be. And I don't just mean like the map. I mean just like the level, the amount of mechanics that are here, the level of detail. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. Like I was talking to someone earlier and I was like, oh, you know, if they just do like a 10-minute video like they've done in the past, they're gonna have to do like 6 of these. But now I realize, oh no, that's why they did this like 30-minute long video, because they kind of had to. And I still feel like we don't know half of what's in this game.
Yeah. For it being a like gameplay reveal kind of thing, it didn't actually show that much. Like, it didn't give us a good idea of that many systems or how they're going to function together. It was still very cinematic. It was still still glued together by a lot of cutscenes, which even then I found that to be a bit odd, because narratively it was sort of all over the place. It was just kind of a series of moments, but it didn't feel like it necessarily had like a cinematic flow to it. It was a weird way to do this. That's not to say that the game doesn't look impressive. It looks wildly impressive. It looks like what you would expect if you spent $1 billion to make a video game.
Yeah.
But the way that they presented it was just so like chopped up and odd. And I was like, wait, what's happening now? Where are we? When in time are we?
We don't know the stakes of these characters. We don't know why they like each other. I don't know if that's actually going to be addressed in the game even, because it kind of sounds like they're just hanging out a little bit. Jason is like the most mediocre white boy I've seen in history. Like he has, which is like, you know, this is very Florida. Let's be honest. That's the most Florida thing you can do, is like a guy who's like Chet Hanks and then like a baddie. Like that's really the
Yeah. I mean, as someone who like literally grew up in Florida, I knew a lot of those guys. I escaped the fate of those guys, you know, but it also feels very accurate to what they're trying to capture. And that, like, because I feel like we all know at least one couple where it's like, why is she with, I guess, I mean, okay, she makes them, you know, they're happy, so whatever. So they nailed that weird dynamic. I kind of agree. It was chopped up a little weird, but I also get the feeling that Rockstar was trying to show, they were trying to have a bit of an arc to be like, here they start in this like seedy apartment doing this drug deal that goes wrong, and by the end of it,
they're like doing stuff with like, you know, people who seem very wealthy,
right?
And like, and there's the through line of like the one older dude, whatever his name is, telling Jason like, you got to know when to get out.
Oh, Brian,
was that Stephen Root?
Yes.
That was Stephen Root. Okay. I was making sure that's Stephen Root. Shout out to Stephen Root. Get that fucking paycheck.
Anytime he shows up, I'm always happy. Get that fucking
paycheck, man. You're getting Hauser brother money? Yeah, goddamn, dude.
I mean, honestly, this might be one of the biggest paychecks he's...
Yeah, probably. I will say. Actually, I don't know how much these games pay for talent like that.
Depends, yeah.
I will say,
at the very least, it'll be the biggest audience he's probably
probably. It's kind of bummer. But I will say, so the tracks I didn't, because I'm OCD about this shit, is Depeche Mode, People Are People, Prefab Sprout, Cars and Girls, Cliff Richard's Devil Woman, Chick 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 featuring Mika Pace, Off the Grid, Phil Collins, Against All Odds, Aluna and Jaded G, Mine Oh Mine, and Elderbrook and Bob Moses, Inner Light. Those were the tracks in there. And then I think somebody mentioned Bellamy Brothers were in there as well, but sorry, that's my like, what kind of tone are you going for kind of check. It is, I will say, it is nice to see a game accurately depict Florida as everything looking like it came from Temu. Like just everything looks so cheap in it, and I think that's to a degree of verisimilitude that I thought was good. I like that they had like really embarrassing bumper plates when she's lifting. You know, like there's a lot of meathead things in the game that I quite like. And like that's the thing is like Miami is, I mean, it is Miami, right? Or like or Vice City, but like yes, I understand. Like that's the most interesting part of Florida. The rest of Florida sucks ass. I'm sorry. Like you go to like Western Florida and it's like all just like the villages and like,
yeah, Florida's, I mean, as someone who grew up there and lived there for quite a while, like basically Miami is like kind of this interesting, cool place to visit in terms of like the culture. And then you move up slightly north and you're basically in Tennessee, except it's worse weather.
And then you have Spring Breakers.
Yeah. Which I wonder if we'll see any of that kind of.
I think we got to be seeing some Spring Breaker style situations go down.
I will say I spotted in her kitchen. It looks like Rockstar's take on Minnie Mouse, which makes me wonder if there'll be any kind of like Disney World, Disney.
Yeah, I mean they have to, right?
Type of thing in there.
Yeah,
but maybe like like a really shitty scale, like one of the ones that's popped up around Disney World or something. I don't know.
Typhoon Lagoon, one of the water parks. I mean, yeah, I imagine some kind of like collapsed version of Orlando is probably like right down the road, even though that doesn't make any sense. I'm curious if they do like Brightline stuff. Is that the train line? I saw some kind of monorail.
We did see, yeah, and in the leaks, which are floating around, of course, and all that, like we saw some train stuff, and so I think that's definitely going to be part of this.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, because you were talking about Disney and a potential pastiche of that, is that, like, you know, there was that bit near the beginning where there's like a commercial for a sandwich made of forest animals. And then there was like one other little bit that felt kind of like more in line with the humor of GTA or what it used to kind of do in terms of like this over-the-top satire. And I do wonder how that will pair with like this more grounded vibe that they're going for, which, you know, GTA 5 already started down that road. GTA 4 even did too. But this really feels like it's going for something that is less like, you know, wacky cartoon antics and more like these are criminals who are trying, like, we're trying to make them feel like real people. Like, you know, this couple that you care about. And then also in this world full of people who are maybe more nuanced than previous depictions of these types of characters in GTA.
I mean, that's the thing that honestly, past like the visuals of initially is what I was like, oh wow. But like as I was listening to these characters talk, I was like, oh, these sound like actual people that were written like to sound like real people. Like it sounded more like an actual prestige television show or something like that. Whereas if you go back to play like the older GTA games, like it's just Ray Liotta just yelling whatever random lines Rockstar North could come up with that day where they had them. Like they were so cartoonish and so silly, and like yes, there's charm to that, but you can clearly tell like this game in particular to me feels like Rockstar went, okay, Red Dead Redemption 2, you people really liked that, so like we should maybe make the next Grand Theft Auto more like Red Dead Redemption 2.
I mean, that would be the ideal situation.
And that seems to be exactly what this is, from the context menu in the corner to the, like, literally there's a part where when he's petting the dog, which everyone's focused on the petting the dog, but if you look at the bottom, it mentions that you can study the animal. That's a Red Dead thing.
Yeah, it's a Red Dead mechanic.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a New York Times piece that they dropped alongside the Netflix trailer, and they were talking about that there. They're basically saying, like, we created, you know, this incredibly detailed world for the Wild West, and then we said, okay, what could we do with the density of a modern city? How could we recreate that, but in a world that is, you know, more complex and more rich with people and objects and everything else? And so, yeah, to your point, I think that's exactly what they were trying to do.
I mean, if they can nail that, that's going to be one of those games like Skyrim where people will just be playing this game for 10 years and still finding like, oh, did you know that if you go to this store at 8:30 p.m., this grandma walks over and hits the window? Like, they're going to still be finding stuff like that, you know?
I do like the idea that like the Hauser brothers were this like weird like anchor around their franchises. Like there is like, because Red Dead has good shit in it. Like both of the Red Dead games have good things in it. You know, there is good writing in these games occasionally, and it's like always in the periphery, and it's like you never gets to really do the spotlight. And Red Dead's closest to like feeling like they didn't overpower it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they made a really interesting tragedy that wasn't trying to just be like, we like 5 movies and like corny, and
Yes.
you know what I mean? And like to the degree to which I'm like curious about how much the verisimilitude of like the actual space, like how much of the Florida-ness of it is the whole thing, is the part, because like I see some people, saw some previews where like there's like it's a space without a character or without characters or without a plot, and I'm like, well, I might like that then. I might like just like Florida's fucked up. Like that's a good thing to kind of go on. You know what I mean?
The way that I played Red Dead even was like a hangout simulator. I didn't really do like that much of the main story. I just sort of like enjoyed my little like daily routine of like waking up at the camp and like having a little tin of coffee and walking around and talking to characters and then exploring the environment and just like getting up to shenanigans. And that calls to mind, I think, a lot of what we've also seen, especially from the leaks, that it seems like in GTA 6, there's going to be, you know, a lot of mechanics around eating and working out and like, you know, taking care of your car, like getting gas, doing maintenance on it, trying not to get it impounded. And so when I first saw a lot of that, and granted, you know, there are systems like that in San Andreas as well. I saw a lot of that and thought, will this eventually become tedious? Will I get tired of like working out every day for the millionth time? And granted, you know, I do that in real life and I'm not tired of it. But in a video game where like you're going to try to like have fun as quickly as possible, will that eventually become a roadblock? But then I remembered how I played Red Dead, and I was like, I enjoyed that little bit of tedium. That added something to the game. Admittedly, though, that part of my routine, like going to camp and drinking coffee, that facilitated talking to other characters and interacting with them, and you know, having these experiences that again made the world feel more real because of the characters, not necessarily because of the routine itself. And so I guess I'm wondering how that's going to fit into a Grand Theft Auto game.
It's something that I actually, you know, when I first started hearing the rumors and stuff that people always like to spread of like about using gas in your car, I kind of remember thinking like, would they do that? Would Rockstar? Because that does seem completely at ends with what GTA has been for so long, which is here's 50 guns, you can do whatever you want and relive the Hauser brothers' favorite action movies again and again. But then on the other hand, after playing Red Dead Redemption 2, it can work, and I'm actually really into the idea, like, I'm into the idea that I could be in a mission and my car runs out of gas. And suddenly I have to figure out what to do. Do I go steal a car?
Time to be like on foot.
Right. Do I go
jump into a bush?
Right. And then they were talking about, I don't know if you've seen any of the other previews where they were mentioning how stealing cars in this game is actually going to be a really interesting mechanic system that it's never been. And if you think about it, the franchise is called Grand Theft Auto, but stealing a car is maybe the easiest, most boring part of these games. You walk up, you hit triangle, you pull the person out. If the car's locked, you break the window and then go in. That's it. There's really nothing else to it. And this time around, many cars will have trackers. And so stealing a car isn't as simple as stealing it because they can track it. So you got to go either figure out a way to disable that tracker, or you just have to ditch the car and get an older car that doesn't have a tracker. And they mentioned that you're going to have to shimmy locks on cars. You might have to clone a key, you know, like a key fob. So even pulling someone out of the car seems to have its own mini game or activity attached to it. So I'm actually excited by the idea of like taking these concepts from GTA that have been around for 20 years now and actually expanding on them in the way Red Dead Redemption did. And maybe it gets tedious, but I think it worked in Red Dead, and it could work here because Rockstar is, I think, the best when it comes to building open worlds that have that level of detail where you just can get lost in them.
To quote Austin Walker, he said, I just caught up and I just want to say, Travis Kelce looking ass.
Yes,
It is.
absolutely.
It really. Like the more I think about Jason as a character, the more perfect for the moment he seems. Just because he's just like his like voice is like way too dumb. He kind of is like a little troupified. You know what I mean? He's got this like.
Right, that's going to be the ending is that he's going to break up with Lucia and marry a billionaire pop star in downtown Manhattan, and it's going to be a whole thing.
He's
Downtown, it'll be downtown Liberty City.
He's
of course.
gonna
yeah,
have-
Liberty City. Sorry, how could I forget?
He looks like a content creator. I mean, like it's really. It's just. I know they're going to lean in on that. It's going to be. No, I do want to say. Note that the Bright Line has killed like more than 200 people, like since it opened in 2017. So there will probably be a scene in which that train kills someone.
Yeah, that seems very.
That's my chalk
or
bet,
some sort
yeah.
of poster somewhere that's like, we've only killed 50 people this year. You know, like I could see
They
Rockstar.
made
very
most of the
GTA.
fucking.
Very-
It's what happens when you make like a Shinken Sen like road level.
Yeah, or like reset the sign 0 days since since it last killed somebody. Yeah.
It's the most American train.
I will say that, like, overall, watching this, I'm very excited to play this game.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to take it for a test drive, like, just because, again, it seems so detailed and so systems rich. Like, even if what I imagine will happen to me happens, which is that I will do some missions and be like, I just don't really find these all that compelling, because I've never been a big fan of the missions in GTA. I've always found them to either be kind of like rote or in some cases frustrating because of bad checkpointing and things like that during, car chases. But there's just so much to explore. And like, you give me a world like that and I can lose myself in it for sure.
yeah, and like, imagine when this gets to PC
Yeah.
and the roleplay community can take this map and like, oh my God.
I mean, they also they hired some of the roleplay people, right? So I mean,
Right, they
they're
have that
building,
stuff.
I assume, their own in-house, version of what people used to use or do use with GTA 5 for roleplay servers.
And you see the roleplay stuff in this game with the gas system and with some of that as well. Like, they are pulling that's straight from roleplay servers.
Yeah.
Those
I do
features.
think that they're like, I'm more interested. I mean, it depends. The thing is like, I think they know their reputation at this point, and they know like they need to like upfront the things that are exciting to people. I was sort of joking. It's like, oh damn, they came out and they both have neo pronouns and they did a land acknowledgement. No, like I thought, but like the joke like that. Like I do think there is space to do something interesting and like nuanced, but like to upfront it with like, here's all the drug shit, like, which is why the first thing you see is like a contextless drug deal gone bad in a poor black
Right.
neighborhood. Like the reason you see that like initially is because it's like, this is the thing that people have shown up for. Is there more is the question that I'm really,
Yeah. Are they going to subvert some expectations along the way?
are they going to subvert expectations? Like what do you do about money? It did feel very interesting that like the set, like the party they were getting that was being crashed. I wanted more context about that because you're kind of thrown into it, and I get the sense it's like a much larger level. There are like a lot of I would say like Yakuza bread moments in that trailer where you're like, how fucking long did it take for you to animate that? Like the guy crashing through the wall, like the fucking like a linebacker.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. When he gets tackled through the drywall.
Yeah.
There was a
that shit's
part where
crazy.
when they're shooting at the police cars, I think it's Jason or Lucia shoots one of the cars. It kind of flips, and when it hits the tree, you can actually watch the tree shakes and like leaves, like somebody that level of detail where like the tree is actually reacting to a car hitting it, and at that point they're blocks away. It's barely out there, and you could still see it.
And this is also like, because the other thing that stood out to me was just like the crowds in general, and
Yeah.
people have like written about this from the leaks, but like the crowd density mixed with like the detail and variety is bonkers, is unlike anything that we've ever seen in a video game. And assuming that like that's what it looks like when you're playing it, which again, this is all, pre-release, other parts are from a leaked build, who knows what the actual game will be like, gotta preface it with that. But if that holds up when you're playing it, then yeah, that's like absolutely unprecedented. And in the New York Times piece, they talk about how they did this. And like, you would look at something like that and think, oh, it's procedural generation. And like, nope, the opposite. We did it all by hand.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They say, we art directed each individual one of them. Let's see, Grand Theft Auto 5 or 6, Rockstar said, has well over 600,000 animations compared with 55,000.
How
Just 55,000
fucking big is this
for Grand
game?
Theft Auto 5 and 300,000 for Red Dead. So it was already a big jump from GTA 5 to Red Dead. And then this is double that.
Yeah.
And then like this is another part that stood out to me. Every room in the game, somebody thought about this. Who's sitting there? What they're drinking? The marks that are left on the table. The pictures on the wall will have people in that room with their tattoos on their arms and their family behind them. The whole thing has been made and built and photographed and placed in this random room in a random building in a huge city in a world. Like, I mean, like, truly bonkers.
It's bonkers, but it's also why I think this franchise people love, like, cannot get enough of it and want to play these games. Is because, even maybe more so today, playing a GTA game, like, it feels, it's handcrafted to a level that you don't see in a lot of big AAA games that use procedural generation. There is something really magical. I've talked about this with other people, but it's like, when I was playing GTA Online recently, and we like drove down into this little area that we haven't been to in a while, and I was like looking at this like little scene that's of like, it was like drug stuff, whatever, and I was like, somebody at Rockstar spent time making sure, like, make sure the coke is trailing off the desk, make sure there's some dirt on, like, and
they did a lot of first-hand research.
Yeah. But I think that's why people love these games, is that they do truly feel like worlds that you could just spend 20 days straight playing these games and not see the same square inch. And it's crazy. It also costs how much to make this game. So that's the other thing.
Question marks? Question marks. Also, just like, I don't know. The funny thing is, like, if they take a more nuanced approach, but it's still in Florida, like, it will have been like the most interesting time for them to have done that. You know what I mean? Like, if they, because that is the most, like, how juvenile do you want to get? Like, location and I mean, they're just gonna be dumb poop jokes and shit, and like, I think it'll probably be like 30% less homophobic. You know, like, it will be roughly at the tone I expect with Red Dead, but without the austerity of Red Dead. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I'm at, and you know what? I'm kind of interested in that. I kid around, but I do want to play these games, like, because there is like, you know, nobody gets to do that anymore. Part of it is just like,
no, nobody's ever gotten to do this, and probably no one
ever
will
again. Maybe, you know, that's the thing, is like, the thing about it that I find fascinating is, like, even if the game's like bad, you know what I mean? Even if the story doesn't deliver, like, it's just it's kind of like the way I look at like Black Myth Wukong or like Crimson Desert. It's like, not Crimson Desert, because Crimson Desert is like strange, but like, isn't that the damnedest thing? Like, the thing in my head is like, isn't it the damnedest thing that somebody got to do that, or like that amount of work?
So many people got to get together and do that.
That's the thing that I was
at the scale. Yeah. And that's actually what I haven't published it yet. By the time that this is out in the world, it probably will be published. I'm going to write a piece about, you know, kind of this quote about the animations and everything, and putting that in conversation with the way that Rockstar has like treated its own workers. Because they have this, like, you know, this message right here is like, it's all human crafted, and like, that's what we care about. And, you know, we are in that way, maybe we're juxtaposing what we're doing with like the wider games industry. And that really stands out to me in the week of Gamescom, when like Gamescom Opening Night Live, you know, there were like almost a dozen games that had AI disclosures, or like clearly were using it heavily. And so it's like, that's good. I like when you are going to bat for the idea of people making something and crafting it to this meticulous degree. But on the other hand, the way that you have demonstrably over the years treated your workers is not good. I mean, all the stories coming out about Red Dead were around crunch. And then similarly, there's been crunch on GTA 6. And of course, there's the union busting. And it's like, man, you worked people to the bone to produce this, clearly. And you won't even like let them have a fucking union? Like, that's wild to me. And like, it's also just contradictory. Like, you can't have it both ways. You either care about your people or you don't.
Yeah, to me personally, I mean, I've known people who've worked at like Rockstar in New York like ages ago, and it was torture, you know, like those people fucking, and for like game capture stuff, you know, for like the trailers that these people, you know, they put out year after year after year. And it like, there was kind of a running joke. You'd see like openings for that on LinkedIn all the time, because it would just perpetually burn people out. Like, it was that like, man, you're fucking there all the time above that weird Best Buy near downtown, and it's just it's rough. It's rough, man. And like, it's at the very least, there are people involved. You know, like a lot of manpower went into this. You know,
that is something you mentioned about the union busting. You mentioned about how they've have this pretty bad track record for treating their employees, and it's so weird, because it's like, this is a game that shows the GTA 6 maybe more so than any game shows what people can accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they all work together.
Right. If they are given plenty of time, plenty of money, allowed to do this crazy thing.
Infinite time and money.
Infinite time, basically infinite time, infinite money, and to a degree, infinite freedom. Because I highly doubt Strauss Zelnick was sending notes over, like, make sure Jason has a darker voice, deeper voice, or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
give him better abs.
Yeah.
Make him look like he took my fitness course.
Yeah, put me in the game. The wrestling people did. You could do that, but it's like this game is maybe the best example of what large video games can be if you have humans making them that care. And then on the other hand, it's also from a studio, a company that has a horrible track record of treating those people with the respect they deserve and the dignity they deserve. So it's a very strange situation where it's like, I see these quotes where they go, it's human made, it's human crafted, the humans are making it, the art is from people. And it's also like, but if they ever fucking unionize, let me tell you what.
I swear to fucking God.
We will find the barest excuse to kick them right out right out into the street.
And it's a hard thing. It's hard to, watch that trailer and be incredibly impressed. And then I have that thought of like, how many people like worked on that animation are still there? And how many of them are not there because of burnout, because of being fired for, reasons like that. So.
Yep. That's the question. With that said, I am curious because, you have an eye for these things and you've already been talking about it a little bit. What are the details that you feel like you've spotted that maybe others haven't? What are the little things that you think will kind of surprise people in the game?
I think the combat is not getting talked about enough. I think a lot of people are wowed by the visuals and they look great. A lot of people are wowed or not impressed by the characters, whatever. But I don't think a lot of people are focusing on the actual minute-to-minute, moment-to-moment combat, because as someone who has played all of the GTA games and has enjoyed them, I will also tell you that they all have pretty bad combat. Yeah. It's gotten better. Yeah. It's gotten better, but like going back to
it's still kind of like perfunctory.
Yeah, you go back to GTA 4, it's like you play the combat in that game and you're like, this is what they shipped. This is not good. So anyways, like looking at the combat of GTA 6, the thing that I'm very excited about is it looks very Max Payne 3-ish.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna steal combat from a game, stealing from Max Payne 3 is about the best you can do. And then on top of that is the Red Dead Redemption 2-ness of it, with how they're handling, like there's a scene where it's very brief where Lucia's running through like a building and she's carrying a bag and she has a bag on her back and she's holding one shotgun and shooting it. And I saw that, I'm like, that's Red Dead stuff. That's where you're having to think about what guns you're carrying. She might at some point have to drop that gun and pick something else up. Like, and so to me, I'm very excited about, because if you think about what is Grand Theft Auto, half of that game is driving around and exploring. The other half is shooting stuff, shooting people, shooting cars. And in these games for a long time, half of it hasn't been great. It's been serviceable at best. So if they can nail the shooting, the combat, like the way Jason was moving around that building looked unlike anything I've seen in GTA. Like he looked more John Wickish or whatever you want to compare it to. The way he was moving around corners, the way his gun reacted to people, the way that at one point he like slows down time and they're doing kind of a Red Dead thing, but you'll notice there's red spots and yellow spots. And if you look, the red spots are lethal. The yellow spots seem to be a stun idea. So so this idea of like, because there's another point where he shoots someone and it flashes yellow, not red. And if you look at that person, he's still moving. So I think you're going to be able to incapacitate people, not just outright kill people. So like you might go into a mission and maybe there's a security guard working a shitty night shift. You might just be able to shoot him in the foot.
Yeah.
Or shoot him in the shoulder and like wing him, put him down and keep moving and not have to kill him. That seems interesting. Like the combat seems like it has a lot more depth to it. And I'm actually really interested to see more of that.
Yeah. Well, it's also going to be like a morality system, right?
Yeah. They call it the criminal profile system. So the idea is that the more reckless you are, police will actually change how they behave. So if you're a really reckless asshole, the police will be less willing to like give you leeway. They will come after you harder. And they also mentioned, and they showed in one of the previews, Lucia and Jason can have different criminal profiles. So if your Lucia's crazy and your Jason's kind of boring, you might want to bring Jason on some missions because the police might be slower to respond. Whereas if you bring Lucia or vice versa. So that criminal profile stuff seems really cool. I'm not quite sure how petting a dog factors into it, because when he pets the dog, you see the little angel icon, which is tied to the profile system. So maybe petting a dog makes you a good criminal. I'm not sure. I guess that makes sense.
I'm gonna pet a dog 100,000 times and
be the best criminal.
Yeah. Well, no, then I'm innocent.
That's
like,
true.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Police actually see you and they go, "Come on, sir. Come on in."
And his record is just a picture of a dog. It's the darndest thing.
I was gonna say maybe there is this. Well, for one, it would be funny if there was like a well, now dogs just trust you implicitly sort of thing. So you may like, but I'm just thinking of
dog army.
Yeah, like just well, just the other element of like the way that like the systemic stuff from Red Dead, like the kind of ineffableness of it. That part I always liked. You know what I mean? Like the ways, like the fact that you kind of have to be careful in Red Dead a little bit. I mean, I don't think they're gonna do that here because like obviously it's GTA and that would be annoying, but like the degree to which like you fucking trip over somebody in Red Dead and it's like fucking the whole town wants to kill you was at least I like that. But I think a toned down version of that where like you can't be a dick all the time is more interesting.
They showed some of that in the leaks, or they didn't show it, but it was spotted in the leaks where when he's at the nudist colony and he suddenly opens up and starts shooting at people, it pops up a little thing going like, "Hey, you're not gonna be able to use the services here anymore." So like if you're being an asshole, and there's another part where he slaps someone and it mentions you can't use the services here. So I think they're gonna have some aspect of like the game's gonna react to you being a dick in a way that past you. Even in this extended look, there's a little moment where Lucia's walking towards a store and she pulls up her mask and she puts the gun behind her back and she's walking in and you notice there's two people
are
oh, I'm out of here. Which that does not happen in GTA. I literally tested this yesterday for a story where, because I was pretty sure, but if you walk up to people in GTA 5 with a assault rifle out, they look at you like, "How's up?" It's only if you start shooting it. Even police. You can walk up to a cop in GTA 5 with an assault rifle and he'll look at you and be like, cool gun, man.
I mean, that's realistic if you're white.
That's true. I was playing as Trevor, so I guess that does make sense. I was white. But no, I'm really excited about this idea that like the world's going to react to you a lot more in subtle ways. Like those people, they didn't call the cops. They just sort of, I'm going to get out of this area.
Well, also like the level of verisimilitude in the world and like just how real it all looks. And, you know, maybe over time, my mind will like revert to how it is normally when I play video games. But I'm like, could I do the Grand Theft Auto thing of just going on a rampage in this world? I don't know if I would feel good about it. I think I'd be like, oh, this sucks. This makes me feel gross.
Speaking of that leak with the nudist colony, where I was watching it and the part where he like opened up fire on this crowd of people with a pistol, and I was like, oh man, yeah, like we're at a point now where like Rockstar, you've done your job so well. These people look so real. And it's not just that they look real. If you watch that clip when he starts shooting, like people are grabbing onto each other.
Yeah, the way they move is crazy.
And you look at this and you go like, you did your job so well that I don't know if I want to just shoot into a crowd. Like, I don't know. It's going to be a really weird feeling. And you can even tell in this extended look, the missions tend to involve criminals or armed guards. Like you're not just out in the world shooting people. Now, maybe there will be missions like that, but I suspect even Rockstar has picked up on this and there won't be. Like I highly doubt there'll be rampage icons in this game. Like there have been in past GTAs where you get the little icon and then it's like kill 500 of these people or whatever. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they might realize, this doesn't work for us anymore.
Yeah. Again, I think that would make me feel icky.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure some people will do it anyway. You know, I bet there'll be many, many YouTube videos of somebody being like, I killed 40 billion people in Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, I think that normal players will probably approach it with, I think the thing that like will happen to a lot of people is they'll be shocked at how much they're following the rules in a game about crime.
Yes.
So like, yep, I'm driving at the speed limit. I'm trying not to hit people.
I'm not taking corners too tight. That way I don't hit people on the sidewalk. Like I'm being very careful.
I'm being respectful.
But you were talking about the leaks some, and I did want to get your perspective on that too. Because it seems like, I don't know if the saga has come to an end, but what the leaks guy like cashed out his meme coin today.
Yeah.
And so like whatever financial stake he had in this is now gone. And this did seem to just be advertising for the meme coin. And it's like, are we still going to get leaks every day, or is CyberLeaks just peacing out now?
My prediction is, and I could be wrong on this, but my prediction is that there are no more leaks for him.
Yeah.
Because if you watch those leaks, and I have watched them quite a bit, they seem to be showing, everything seems to be coming from the same 30, 40-minute session. Based on the missions that aren't being completed, the way his guns aren't, like, everything seems to be coming from a session. Now, did he have access to this? Did someone else have access to this? I have no idea about that. I suspect he did not have a build. There's a lot of technical reasons for that, but also for the fact that if I was an asshole who was leaking stuff like he was, and I had a build of GTA 6, I would be showing a lot more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
I think the leaks are done. And more importantly, I don't think it even matters anymore because this killed the leaks. Like, this not only does it look better, but it can be shared easily because it's not a leak. And also, it's more interesting stuff. This shows a lot more interesting stuff. A lot of the leaks, I mean, if you care about GTA 6 as much as I do or other people, it's like, oh, wow, look, a new icon for this symbol and the health,
I don't know. Was any of this as interesting as a nudist colony?
That's a good point. But Netflix is like, no, you can't include the nudist colony.
The other thing that was really funny is like the sort of, like, didn't he have like a manifesto, like a bullshit manifesto?
Yes.
Yeah. So like the idea that like,
which didn't really make sense as manifesto.
But I will say, I kind of respect if you're going to just be a scam artist to pretend like, what do these people fucking want? I don't know, like, stop killing games, whatever the fuck, whatever the fuck bullshit.
He was
physical
against
discs.
He was well, that's
no
the thing.
Fake pre-orders.
He was digital pre-orders. He was actually okay with digital. He just didn't want digital pre-orders until you showed
But
even he seemed lost in his own.
But that was like the pretending that you give a shit kind of nature of this, coupled with like, one culpable deniability if he gets caught, which he probably will maybe at some point. I think he's sloppy.
I mean,
cashing out like 250.
Absolutely on the trail.
There is a SWAT team, a private military corporation right now.
They're gonna fucking they're gonna like break down his door with like fucking
then later they're gonna make a DLC mission out of it for the game.
There'll be a GTA Online 2 mission where it's like, you need to take out Cyber Potato. He's been leaking the new, it's like,
he does have a manifesto that would exist in a Rockstar game, I will say. It is the like, what's the most unsympathetic fucking nerd on earth? Like, who could you do?
So there was that theory floating around that all of the cyber leak stuff was Rockstar secretly, which I don't buy, to be clear.
Cyberleaks was an inside job.
I think it's complete bullshit. But I will say, the manifesto and even his icon, I was like, this could be a GTA. Like, I could imagine this in a GTA world. There is something about it. Even the way he's like, you want to see basketball? Like that, it feels very like GTA making fun of that kind of leaker culture. But yeah, no, I think the leaks, either they're done or they don't really matter at this point.
Yeah, no, it really does feel like a parody of what would happen in the situation, like in one of these games.
I would also point out that I think it doesn't get talked about as much, but like part of the reason these leaks even happened is because of Rockstar and is because of Take-Two deciding to hold back gameplay for this long. Like I don't.
Curiosity was just like super pent up. Yeah.
Like and to be clear, I don't think it's cool to go and steal people's stuff and I'm not condoning anything, whatever. But my point is, this wouldn't have happened if Rockstar showed some of this 2 months ago. And instead, they opened pre-orders up without showing a single frame of raw gameplay. And so it's like, you kind of, in a way, you're sort of creating the most valuable thing on Earth right now, which was GTA 6 gameplay footage. And then when it got leaked and they were like, oh, what the hell? It's like, well, you kind of all you had to do to stop these leaks, the moment that first leak happened, was call Netflix up, cut together a 1-minute trailer of stuff from that extended look and post that online, and it would have basically killed these leaks immediately.
Yeah, but I mean, Rockstar was doing a whole we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah, honestly, fair. Yeah, like they
which that is, I get, but like it's just so weird to me because it's like the situation was sort of their own doing. GTA
I mean,
6,
I don't disagree. We talked about this on last week's episode, but it's also like a wider industry thing, right?
Yes.
The culture of secrecy around video games more broadly, and the way that we are drip fed all this marketing while being told to spend increasingly exorbitant sums of money. It doesn't really benefit anyone except for companies. And this is also one of the things that happens as a result, is people get desperate and they get weird and they commit actual crimes.
I also, one little thing to point back to is, if you remember the 2022 leak that happened.
Yep.
So in this extended look, they show that mission. And I think that was Rockstar.
Oh yeah, like winking
and also going like, compare that to that. Look at, you want to see what we did in the last 4 years. Here you go.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, because I already know there's going to be tons of comparisons.
Oh, yeah.
And like you guys even wrote about like one comparison where it was like, oh, has there been a visual downgrade? And like, your conclusion was less like, yes, there has, no, there hasn't. And we're like, we can't know yet. And like this discourse is kind of stupid. But of course they anticipated that. And they were like, okay, let's give them a positive comparison. Let's give them a place where they can say like, oh, there's that. And wow, this is really improved.
Mm-hmm. But also there's this element of just like, who, like after a certain, they're never going to fucking pay them because like, who gives a shit? Like, what are you going to do? Like advertise their fucking game for us? And also like there's this other element of like, oh no, stop, like, oh no, people are more excited. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it doesn't really like normal people who are going to wait for their Christmas presents to some degree. They're going to do the, like, I don't want to be spoiled. I want it to be special because people are weird babies. And then like, people who are going to look at it are going to look at it, but both parties are going to fucking buy the game. It doesn't matter. They'll pay for $80. They've already probably have, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine. Who cares? So like, they get to be mad. They get to be mad at this guy. Basically everybody wins. Like, I hope the guy gets away and like, is just like the end of Office Space where he's just like Milton when he's like drinking the fucking like margarita and asking, just like, he's just absconded perfectly,
Well, and there's an argument to be made, and Rockstar will never show us this, Take-Two will never show us this, but I'd love to see pre-order sales numbers for during the period when the leaks were coming out, because I bet
it spiked.
It spiked pretty high. Yeah. So if anything, maybe they should just let him get away.
He didn't take their money. He took some fucking like dipshit. He like ripped off meme coin people, which honestly, that's like fair.
Yeah.
Like if anything, he ripped off meme coin people and he helped advertise your game. There's a part of me that's like, you should do like the good cop thing where you just kind of, you see him and you walk the other way.
Yeah. Well, no, he's going to receive a letter, even though like he's, gone into hiding.
Right.
It's going to be from Rockstar and it's going to say, thank you for helping us pull off the greatest ARG in history. We'll be in touch, parentheses, in like 20 years.
Like
see
we'll
you for Bully 2.
They're gonna be like, we need to, we're coming out with GTA 7. It's gonna be a helicopter. It's gonna be chopping wood in the fucking wilderness.
Like bring in the closer.
Or it's gonna be like 10 years later, and suddenly a DVD is gonna get slid under his door, and it's just gonna say Red Dead 3. You know what to do, and he's gonna be like,
"No, your greatest challenge yet, Red Dead Online 2.
Red Dead Online 2,
popular,
and
make that blow up.
He slides it back under."
Yeah,
I can't.
I can do that. I'm retired. I'm retired. Damn it!
I'm out of the game. It's like John Wick. He goes and smashes his garage up and starts pulling out the computer and the CyberLeak icon, and he's like, "I'm ready."
All right. Well, on that note, I think we can wrap up this segment. Zach, where can people find you?
As always, and probably forever, as long as I can, Kotaku.com. I'm also on Blue Sky at ZackZwiezen.com. And that's kind of it, because I'm not a very social butterfly person.
No, that's fine. Keep it locked down over there. Keep everyone honest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was fun. And now back to me from the past. All right. With all that said, I think that it is time to move on to the mailbag. If you, the listener or viewer, would like to contribute to the mailbag, you can do so by subscribing to Aftermath, which again, you can do on the website, aftermath.site. And if you subscribe to our $10 member tier, that will gain you access to our Discord. And the Discord is where the mailbag lives and sleeps and eats and breathes and contemplates its own existence as we feed it more and more messages. All right. So first question of the day is from Trim Dog. Which FPS had the best couch co-op? I mean, I got to go with the generic answer and say Halo Combat Evolved.
Yeah, they built a whole, let's be honest, like console on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the strength of that one game like propelled Microsoft to relevance for debatably, let's just say between 5 and however many years. You know what I mean? Like it depends on if you consider them where you consider their current relevance. But like, yeah, that they like that was the thing they built that console on.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, I am biased. Like, I played that with my dad when I was a kid. Like important bonding experience, all that. I will never be able to evaluate that in any sort of objective sense. But I mean, it's also one of those things where like Halo co-op holds up. Like I was playing Infinite with friends a couple of years ago, and like Infinite is a vastly worse game than Combat Evolved. I mean, it's good. Infinite has its high points, but it's not as good as it could have been. But still, just the basics of it, just the rudiments, the way that it feels, what you're able to do, how the enemies behave. Like Halo remains unmatched in those regards.
Yeah, couch is also very specific. I mean, like the Lego games I do think are also quite good if you're a kid, if you're like a parent.
I don't like Lego Batman and stuff like that.
Yeah, all of those are like they basically are like I would like something non-intrusive to play with my child.
All right, let's see from Treethan. Airship Syndicate, which is co-founded by comic book artist Joe Madureira, recently revealed their new game called Dust Origins. What other comic book artists would you like to see make really cool looking video games?
Didn't Mike Mignola do some game stuff? I forget.
That I do not know. Let's see. Well, really cool looking video games. If we're talking about artists with like styles, because I looked at this question earlier. I was just thinking about comic book artists in general, not necessarily like their art styles. I'm not sure if he's gotten to, but I was like, oh, I'd love to see like Kieran Gillen, who used to run Rock Paper Shotgun and now is a comic book person, like get to make a video game. He made Die, which is a series about tabletop role playing, and created a whole rule system for it. And I think he's probably done like some writing and consulting on video games, but I'm not sure if I don't think he's gotten to like direct his own.
I feel like now I'm thinking about like indie comics, like I had Kate Beaton or something. Like
I like more things that look like Charles Burns, but nobody can do it but Charles Burns. You know what I mean? At some level, like it's hard to do that. Like, I mean, I guess you could do a Charles Burns style thing. I don't know. I love Charles Burns. I think that like things that look like them like that would be good in an indie game.
Okay, I got one. Because despite the fact that its TV series or TV adaptation crashed and burned after one season and was never very good, I enjoyed Deadly Class when that was running in like the late 2010s. And that had a like really, I don't know, just like fun kind of gritty art style to it, while still being like kind of cartoony and youthful so as to represent like where the characters were at. And it was a comic about like the main character's whole reason to be was trying to assassinate Ronald Reagan. So, hey, good shit. But it was illustrated by a guy named Wes Craig. So, yeah, let that person kind of go crazy. And bonus video game connection, the writer, Rick Remender, worked on Bulletstorm.
Oh,
so
okay.
Has video game experience. So they could reprise their partnership and make a game together.
I think with the Manola thing, I was just also kind of, I've seen so many things inspired by Mike Mignola, like Darkest Dungeons definitely feels like that. And so I think it's just, it's very front of mind. So I'm like, he's got to have done something, you know what I mean? But I don't necessarily know if that's true.
Riley, you got one?
No.
Have you ever read a comic book?
Not really. Some very old, like indie ones, but I just learned that the Lanterns, right, the HBO show. Yeah. I guess it's directed by Damon Lindelof, and I went, oh, and then it was like it's a comics thing, and I went, oh, and it felt like a very me moment.
I had the exact opposite because I was like, oh, I hear Lanterns is good. Oh, David Lindelof is involved. That's gonna piss me off. I fucking hate that guy, but he's good at doing something kind of stupid. But like,
I feel like I've watched The Leftovers a couple times, and the last time I watched it, I had a moment where I was like, "This should be the last time," because if we watch it another time, I think we're gonna ruin it for ourselves.
Yeah,
and I was like, "It's good, let it go." Like,
I just that Watchmen, man, that Watchmen show's so bad. It's so bad. I'm sorry. It's got like 2 or 3 really good things in it, like Jeremy Irons just killing the same people over again, but it's rough.
All right, from Dead End. What was the last time you felt truly hyped for a game? And what game was it? And talk about that hype and if the game delivered. I mean, for me, mine are very recent, although neither of them are out yet. And, you know, I've talked about this game a million times on the show, but the sequel to Trails in the Sky is about to come out.
Yeah.
Trails in the Sky, second chapter. And that's a direct continuation of the story from the first game, which itself is a remake of the first game in the entire Trails series. And yeah, I mean, the first remade game, which is my first Trails game, was just a really really fucking good JRPG. Great characters, really interesting world with a lot of like, small nuance to how it was thought out. And I want to see where it goes. So I'm super excited. I have the release date of it, September 17th, marked in my social calendar. So that's how you know that I think about it. Like this goes beyond like playing a video game for work. This is oh yeah, like this is going to take up a lot of my time and become a centerpiece of my life until I have finished it.
Okay.
And then the other one is less of a game unto itself, but I finally really like got back on the Warframe train hard. That's like all I've been playing recently. That's my evenings, and I'm doing that to prepare for the Tau expansion, which comes out later this year and adds an entire new star system, basically. And I've been going through all the story content and just basically getting ready for this, like the biggest expansion the game has ever done, which, if it really is as big as it sounds like, it's almost a new game. And so, of course, I'm super hyped about that because even though I did not so I played Warframe a whole lot in 2020 and then a little bit in the intervening years. This is my first time, though, like really getting back deep into it. And yeah, I still believe it's one of the best games. It's there's so much, and it's also it tries so many things and it doesn't always succeed, but the ambition is admirable every time. It never stops surprising you.
I don't know if we should make the distinction between games that we were past tense excited for and ones we are currently, because like the one I think Ace Combat 8 is probably the one sorry, I love Ace Combat. Ace Combat rules. Ace Combat fucking rips. It's so cool. The universe lore is insane. I love it so much. But yeah, no, I think Ace Combat's like, that's my version of that. That's my, like, this is me time game, I think, coming up. There's a bunch of them. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, fucking Elden Ring was the one that's like the big one that like, yes, that actually did exceed. But like there's definitely been ones in the intervening years. It's just, it's hard for me to sort of place them on I know what I'm currently excited for. I don't know.
Riley, you got one?
It's so hard. I feel like they don't make games for me anymore. I feel like the last game that I was really hyped for, it's going to sound sad, was probably Deathloop. I remember being really, and I think I wasn't working anywhere then, but I remember being like, oh yeah, I'm going to play the heck out of that. It's going to be so great. Me, it's cool there's more Witcher. I guess the Windows 11 thing has dampened my enthusiasm. Remember, obviously, the end of The Long Dark. Remember being really psyched for Frostpunk 2. Like, I feel like I have very niche, like, I just want another freaking immersive sim, man. Like, come on.
There are a lot of indie immersive sims. Yeah, you just got to, like, seek those out.
Yeah, it's like, I keep almost biting the bullet on, what's it called? Gloomwood or Gloomhaven or something like that.
Well, wait, one of those is a tabletop
they're
game.
They're both games.
Yeah, I think Gloomwood is the one that
is the one I'm thinking of, yeah. Every time I see one or the other, I get it mixed up.
I was just thinking about
Gloomwood is the one that you are referring to.
Yeah,
a stealth horror FPS.
I was thinking about Deathloop the other day. I think partially because South of Midnight, because it's like a really ambitious swing starring a black protagonist from a company that like you don't necessarily expect this from, that kind of didn't do as well as it could have for reasons that are both out of and internally their control. Do you know what I mean? And done in a really unique setting that was like a swing. Deathloop is much more like actively like, oh, the end of that game's a fucking mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't what I what I'd hope. But what I'd hope for is more Dishonored. I guess I felt the same. I was excited for First Light, which I hadn't finished. And I feel like the more, because what I want is more Hitman. And I feel like the more they were like, well, it's not Hitman, I was like, I'm growing rapidly less excited. And like, that's not the fault of these companies. They're not making the game I want them to make. They're making a different game, which is like good and fine. But it's like, I just want more of like those things.
The people that hated First Light really hated First Light, and which I find fascinating because I still think it's a better game. I mean, I think the problem is it's just not Hitman. You know what I mean? Like the problem is it's not Hitman. It's if you love Hitman.
You've got more Hitman. You can go kill Snoop Dogg.
You can kill Snoop Dogg
there's so
in
much,
the world of
that's
assassination.
The thing, right? There's so much Hitman. Like they're making a sequel to The Long Dark, my very favorite survival game. But I have so much The Long Dark, or even like Dishonored. Like I never quite finished Dishonored 2, and it's like, dude, I don't need more. I have more than enough that I will never finish already. But I do miss the feeling of getting really hyped. I feel like it hasn't happened for me in a while. And it would be nice to be like, oh my God, I can't wait till, such and such comes out. Like, I was just thinking about it literally this morning. I was thinking about GTA 6, which I guess this will be weird because I'll be talking from the past. But I was like, should I buy a console? Like, do I want to play that? And like, luckily for me, consoles cost, $600. And I was like, nope. But,
yeah. All right, from Chill Shorts 57. We've seen these big public gaming conventions fall in the past, obviously a decent amount due to COVID, from E3 to BlizzCon being off for a number of years before managing to come back. And I want to know, how has Gamescom and other conventions managed to survive consistently? I mean, honestly, that's a good question. With Gamescom, the one thing that I know about it, because I've never been, is that it is huge. Gamescom functions as both a kind of like press-facing event and then also one that is open to the public in subsequent days. I think it pulls more people than any other gaming convention. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's the biggest, period. And so, yeah, I mean, at that point, probably inertia and business. And then PAX is kind of similar. PAX is also huge and open to the public, whereas E3 constantly straddled that line and never figured out where it wanted to land. It was also just horrifically mismanaged by the ESA. The ESA is a joke organization. And then like BlizzCon, yeah, as you're saying, it took years off. Also, BlizzCon was racked by scandal because of everything that came out about Blizzard. And so some of these are also just like unique cases.
Tokyo Game Show has been going on like forever,
yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, TGS has also been around for ages. And
I wonder if the location had something to do with that, where like a lot of these things end up being in America, and so it's something big that isn't in America probably like serves a need that helps it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is that all of these different events, because of, things like COVID obviously played a role, but also just people's increasing lack of money, for one, for two, internet addiction and, proclivity to stay inside and like just all of that, means that a lot of these events are facing various and I think slightly different, depending on which convention you're talking about, existential crises. That's the big question at like GDC every year. GDC is obviously a much smaller event focused mostly on game developers and businesses. But every year it's like, how do we justify this? How do we justify charging a lot of money for this? How do developers justify coming to this? Will it be around in 5 years, in 10 years? Will it be in another place in 5 years or 10 years? All of these things. And I think that we're seeing that to varying degrees and scales for almost every major event. All right. Last question from that Debrod. Yeah, there we go. Nailed it on the third try.
Nice.
I decided to skip all GTA marketing since the cover reveal. Am I big dumb for missing all the action and just wanting the game, unbothered and totally surprised by everything the game is going to have? No, you're not dumb at all. No, you are, in fact, the only smart person on Earth. Yeah. No, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today, too, because I've seen people discussing, like, the leaks in regard to Rockstar's own marketing, and like, Rockstar's doing marketing in like the leak is better marketing for GTA than Rockstar ever could have done, at least in the way that they're doing it. And it's like, yeah, but it's also GTA. Fuck it. They could have just said, we're not going to show anything until the game comes out, and it would still sell 300 billion copies. Granted, it's GTA, so, it is an exception to every rule, but would have been kind of cool to do. I don't know, man. Like,
they made a statement today.
Yeah, the focus on like drip feed marketing for not just games but everything, I think, is to the detriment of many of those things. Like, it just kind of wears out, I don't know, people's interest over time, especially if they're inundated with things or with like, trailers and screenshots and all of that. And it just like often doesn't really represent the actual object very well. And so you have all of these, really talented artists and creatives working on something for years and years and years. And then like some dopey trailer with bad music colors somebody's first impression of it more than the work itself gets a chance to. And that sucks.
Yeah, it stops being exciting, I think, when you see too much. And, here's the... I feel like sometimes those kinds of trailers focus on some niche thing and then it just doesn't feel like fun. Like, I don't want to watch a 10-minute video about... I don't want to say driving because that's what GTA is. I'm trying to think of a thing. But yeah, it can ruin it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I don't, to the extent that I've been like subjected to this, it's vocationally. I probably would just wait till the game comes out. I do want to play it because I am that guy. You know, I am the person who like has an interest in these games as almost like as cultural objects more than like games themselves. Like it is a really, you do learn a lot. I don't know. We get into this a lot with like people who are like, why should you cover X, Y, or Z, whether it's a show or a game that's like, and it's like, I don't know, you do learn a lot from the droppings of society or from like the weird, big, dumb things in society that are like kind of ugly and mean and like not particularly healthy. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes that you learn the most about it because it's like, that's a keystone for like a lot of people. And but I don't need to, the only reason I'm watching that thing tomorrow is like to talk about it for work and like, I you know, ultimately, and see what they're doing with it. But they might be doing something interesting. I don't know.
The leaks were a question at the bar trivia I go to last night, which has never been video game adjacent in any way. And I was like, oh, it's crossed into the zeitgeist. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's broken containment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is probably going to be the biggest media release period of the entire year. Like, it will outstrip Marvel, I imagine. In any case, I think that is our show for the week. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and or listened along at home. This has been Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath.site. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe on the website, which is, again, Aftermath.site. We record every week, and we'll be back to do it all again next week. But until then, have a good one.
Bye.